May be hard to believe, but after only 8 videos, we have all 8 Master Medals. The only thing left to do is challenge the game's final boss. Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant, welcome back for more of the Pokémon Trading Card Game. Last time, we beat Murray! No one likes Murray. And today, we're going to be heading into the Pokémon Dome. In search of defeating the Grand Masters themselves, this game's version of the Elite Four. And once we have all 8 medals, the door will allow us to go through. Just take in the music here. Doesn't it sound just so fitting? I mean, the music in this game isn't the best, but for what it is, it does its job really well. But just like the Elite Four in the regular Pokemon games, once you go up these stairs, you cannot leave unless you beat all 4 of them in succession, or if you lose to any one of them at any point. So there are 4 Grandmasters here. You can see them from left to right. Each one of them specializes in one of the 4 legendary Pokemon cards. Rod is pretty much the leader. He's like the version of Lance in that he has the legendary Dragonite. But there's Courtney, the Fire Queen, her specialty being Moltres. Steve, Grandmaster of Lightning, whose leader is Zapdos. And Jack is Articuno. So if we can defeat all 4 of them in succession, we will earn 1 of each of their cards. And naturally, first up, we start with Moltres. And prepare for the most intense 8-bit card game music you've ever heard. Now the deck that I'm going to be using is similar to the one that we have been using all along for our water types, because naturally, since she specializes in Moltres, her deck is going to be fire, and the counter to that is obviously water. Now the special thing about the legendary Pokemon cards, I don't think she has hers in play yet, because she wouldn't place it down until after... Did she did? No, that's a different Moltres. That's not the one we're gunning for. All of the special, or should I say all of the legendary Pokemon cards, specialize in a particular Pokemon power that only activates when you place the card down onto the bench from your hand, which does not count from the very beginning. So if you have to place it down at the start of the match, the Pokemon power does nothing. But each one of them has a very special power, and Moltres is extremely helpful in terms of getting your offense going with a fire deck. You may remember when we ran our own that the one issue with fire is it can do a lot of damage, but you tend to burn through your energy pretty quickly. And I think I'll just go for Professor Oak here. I don't like discarding a Blastoise, but we don't have many other options in there. So I guess we'll get a Lapras down. I guess we can put another Squirtle down. I'm afraid of losing this thing, but at the same time, if we have another Squirtle down, we can always evolve it if we don't get the paralysis here. But Moltres' power, when it finally comes into play, allows Courtney to draw a random number between 1 and 4 fire energy from her deck into her hand the moment she places it down. I don't remember if Golduck needs 2 or 3 energy to attack. I think it's 2. I hope it's 2. It's 3. That stinks. Well, I guess we're gonna have to sit this one out for a little while. But this is where the music gets really, really good. I like this music a lot. But once we get the 3rd energy going on this Golduck here, we can finally see why I think it's so useful. Because the attack Hyper Beam not only does 20 damage, but it also forces the opponent to discard an energy. Or should I say, you choose which energy to discard. And I think if she gets a third fire energy, we could be dead. That's a waste of a Golduck. Damn. So I guess we can throw out Lapras just for the spare time to work with here. But a lot of the attacks that fire types will do, like their flamethrowers, do additional damage if you discard an energy. And let's get that off the Moltres because we're going to knock out this Magmar next turn. So having the additional energy drawn from your deck from putting down the legendary Moltres is extremely helpful in that it helps fuel those kinds of attacks. Now these... I believe this Moltres cannot attack... well, it has Wildfire. I guess this is the only attack in the game that really helps you mill cards off of the top of your opponent's deck. I never actually mentioned this, but... one of the 3 conditions to forcing your opponent to lose a match is actually getting them, or forcing them to draw a card when they have no cards left in their deck to draw. And the reason I never mention this is because it's very unlikely for that situation to come up. The only time that ever really becomes an issue is when you're facing Murray and he starts to stall a lot. Which didn't exactly happen with us, and I guess I can't complain about that. But aside from drawing 6 prize cards or knocking out all of your opponent's Pokemon, the third way that you can force a victory is by forcing your opponent to draw from their deck when they have no cards left. And I guess that's the only way for that to happen. Now here we have the Game Boy exclusive Ninetales, but it has 80 HP, so we wouldn't be able to knock it out immediately. Dancing Embers can be kind of irritating, but I guess we should take the free kill when we get it. And if I get one more energy up on Wartortle, then we can one-shot the Ninetales, which would be beautiful. Because if this thing starts getting Dancing Embers going, you flip 8 coins, and knowing the CPU's luck, the majority of them will be heads. We just need 2 more tails and we're safe. We're safe. Phew! My luck with these coin flips is generally horrendous. Thankfully that wasn't the case this time. I just forget if Lapras's retreat cost is 2 or 3. Not that it really matters. I think Wartortle will be safe when we bring it in, because she doesn't have any energy on anything else. So let's get this on Wartortle. Let's retreat to the bench, bring in Wartortle. I think I said Wartortle twice, so I may have said something wrong there, but it doesn't matter. Ninetales is dead! And whatever she brings in is also dead on the next attack. So, Courtney turned out not to be too bad after all. So now Courtney takes her leave, and knowing that we're facing Steve, who has an electric deck, we may want to switch up our cards. So let's prepare for the duel. Let's switch to the appropriately named Up Yours Steve deck. Save our game just in case we mess this up. And take on Zapdos's deck. So it's a shame that we didn't actually get to see the legendary Moltres in action, but hopefully my explanation was sufficient. Unfortunately, we're starting off with a Diglett and no energy to power it up, but thankfully we're at least resistant to electricity. So here is Zapdos. When it's placed down on the bench, it does 30 damage to a Pokemon at random, regardless of whose side of the field it's on. And unfortunately, Because this doesn't apply weakness and resistance, and it does exactly 30 damage, and we only have Diglett on the field, if this strikes Diglett, it's a donk. Oh, thank God. If that struck Diglett, we would have been dead before the opponent was able to even attack. That would have been horrendous. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And we don't have any fighting energy at all. Are you kidding? I have the majority fighting energy in here. So here's Zapdos. Pokemon power, you've already seen. Peal of Thunder, 30 damage to a Pokemon at random. Big Thunder for 3 electric energy does 70 damage to a Pokemon at random. So that's fun. I can't believe I don't have any fighting energy at all. This is the absolute worst case scenario. I don't know if I have anything that can accelerate fighting energy into my hand either. That's a bit of a shame. So Mr. Mime, I have him in this deck for reasons that I assumed would work, but have since learned don't. So its usefulness may or may not actually come into play. I probably should have taken it out of the deck after learning what I did. I have all 3 Gust of Winds in my hand. What the heck? So Mr. Mime's not going to be as useful as I thought he would be. If I get a chance to retreat back to the bench, which isn't happening because Electabuzz is being a jerk, as is the RNG and the coin flips. But I'm finally getting my fighting energy. See, the thing is, I don't want to bring in Zapdos because it's resistant to fighting, so we wouldn't be able to do it any damage. I don't want to bring it in unless I can get Mr. Mime in here. So if we get one more fighting energy, we can knock this thing out. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So here's what we can do. That Zapdos is already built up, which is not good. One thing we can do, we can retreat to the bench, we can bring in Mr. Mime. Because of its Pokemon power, Zapdos wouldn't be able to do anything to us. So we'll bring that thing in. And we'll force its hand. See what Steve wants to do. If he wants to waste the energy to retreat, he just burned through... That's either 3 or 4 energy he had to remove from Zapdos in order to retreat it. He had 4, it now has 1. So that's fine. I think our retreat cost is 1. So what we... That's not what I wanted to do, Kate! No! Okay, fine, we'll switch up our strategy. Bring Zapdos back in here. I meant to attach that to Diglett so we could retreat out Mr. Mime and we could get the free knockout on the Eevee. That obviously did not happen. For better or for worse. So let's get... You know what, let's hang on to that. I guess there's no reason to put down a Mr. Mime. One of the reasons I am so hesitant to put Pokemon on the bench against this deck is because of the legendary Zapdos. The fewer cards that you have on your side, the more likely he is to strike his own side with Peal of Thunder. So that's the reason you have that thing in. Let's retreat you back. Unfortunately, we can't knock this thing out in one hit because I attached the fighting energy to the wrong Pokemon. So I guess he's just going to be stalling until he's able to get Jolteon in play. We have a Sandslash, but no Sandshrew. Haven't seen either of those yet. I can get a Marowak going, but no fighting energy for it. And... I'm not sure which one I'd want to remove it from, honestly. I only have 1 Gust of Wind left. Decisions. I could bring in Mr. Mime, but Mr. Mime wouldn't... I think Mr. Mime would do exactly 30 damage because Eevee resists. So that wouldn't do us any good. Let's see what he's got. Interesting. So at least we know that this Zapdos won't be able to attack us because it needs 3 energy, but its retreat cost is only 2, so it's not as high as the other. And I'm wondering if I should be attaching this to Marowak or not, depending on how many energy it requires to attack. I think it needs 2 for Bone Meringue, so that may be a better strategy than Diglett. So let's get Diglett out, let's get Mr. Mime in, let's start meditating. Put some pressure on the Zapdos to do something. Because he won't even be able to retreat until he gets a second energy on it, and there's the Dugtrio, whoop-de-doo. Anything else have enough energy to attack? I'm not necessarily worried about anything he's got right now. So let's just keep applying the pressure. It looks like this game's going to be dragged out a little bit longer than the first, but that's okay. He retreats to Eevee, exactly what I thought was going to happen. So if we draw another fighting energy, we have options. Let's get the fighting energy. Let's get this on... Here's a question. Do I want to put that on... Because now we have Dugtrio. Slash would probably be the better option. So let's get you in here, let's start slashing. We'll probably bring in Zapdos, and I did draw another energy for the Mr. Mime after retreating it, so that works. Here's Peal of Thunder again. So I'll try to... Oh, there's the Mewtwo. I'm afraid to put that thing down, though, because I don't think I have any in the... What Pokemon did we just discard? Eevee? Now, I have... This is one of the few instances where the card Pokemon Flute is a bit interesting, in that it allows you to take a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile and put it on their bench. So, you would use this in this deck to make it more likely for your opponent to strike their own Pokemon with Zapdos's attacks. Not entirely sure if that's the thing I want to do at this very moment. I have a number of options available to me right now. Your retreat cost is 2. That's pretty expensive. And I do have 1 fighting energy. But if I bring in Mr. Mime, I have to attach an energy to it to get it to attack, and then I'd be out of energy if I need to bring Dugtrio back in. And if I use the Gust of Wind, I guess I could knock out the Electabuzz. No reason not to do that. Thing is, I don't remember exactly how many cards he has. Or how many of the legendary Zapdos he has. Guess we can get the energy off that thing, no reason to waste that. And we'll start attacking with Mr. Mime. Because all the Pokemon he has left are resistant to fighting, I believe. He has at least 2 Zapdos on the bench. I think it's 3, actually. 2 legendaries and 1 of the normal ones. Yeah. So let's start building Dugtrio back up, I guess. And once again, I'm afraid to put more Pokemon on the bench, because his attacks will randomly hit Pokemon on either side. So the fewer we have on our side, the less likely we are to be hit by them. And depending on what Sandslash's attacks are, I think I'm okay with Dugtrio. And if I get a Psychic Energy or 2, I'll put down the Mewtwo. But I'm not in any hurry. He's got a Voltorb going. Let's get Dugtrio going. And most of the Pokemon he has left on his bench don't have more than maybe 20 to 40 health on them. So Tackle's gonna do 20. I do need to hang on to this Mr. Mime. So let's do this, retreat. Now we only need 2 more KOs. And you can see, because all of his Zapdos require so much energy to do anything, there's really not much he can do at this point. And I believe Earthquake does 70, so it really isn't necessary to do that. What's your retreat? 2? It is 2. I don't want to do more damage to my own bench. I want to keep up the I keep saying keep up the pressure. Thing is, when I knock this thing out, what does he have ready to go? Nothing. Okay, we should be safe for now, at least. We just need one more knockout after this. And if he brings in his Eevee, which he's probably going to do because it resists Psychic, we should have it in the bag. Because provided Dugtrio is available to attack next turn, we should be able to knock it out. And that does it for Steve. So 2 Grandmasters down, only 2 to go. Up next is Jack with his legendary Articuno. So let's switch over to the Lightning and Stuff deck. I realize now the only cards I haven't necessarily used before are the electric types. So I have a bunch of them in this deck. Since we're going to be facing off against a water-type deck, you may imagine why electricity will be useful. But for whatever reason, haven't had the opportunity to show it off yet. So I guess now's as good a time as any. Now, I drew 3 Electabuzz and a Snorlax to start with. That's amazing. With how difficult the Electabuzz were for me to find. Now, Snorlax is here for a different reason. We'll see whether or not its usefulness gets to shine here. So naturally, because he has a water deck, you've already seen a decent number of his cards already, seeing as we've used a water deck a number of times already. And if we get another energy, we should be able to knock this Lapras out on the following turn. So that energy removal was nigh useless, but we had no way of knowing if we were going to get the paralysis or not. So we do have another lightning energy, so we can do Thunder Punch, knock this thing out, and not do any damage to ourselves in the process. And since he used that water energy on his Lapras, he doesn't have anything prepared. So there's a regular Articuno, we've seen it already. I guess there really isn't any need for me to explain anything else up to this point. Hopefully we'll get to see the legendary Articuno in action. I say hopefully just for the sake of being able to show it off to you guys. I don't want it to come into play, but that's another issue. So just making sure this Articuno requires 3 energy to do anything and 2 energy to retreat, and Seal is Seal. So let's get a potion, and double checking, I'm pretty sure this thing, it doesn't have any weakness. So let's get that Seal in here, get the free knockout, get a lightning energy on the other Electabuzz, I guess. So now all he has left is the Articuno until he puts something else on the bench, but chances are this match will go on long enough that he does. So there is the legendary Articuno. Quick Freeze. You flip a coin when you put Articuno on the bench. If you get a heads, the Pokemon in the opponent's active spot is paralyzed for that turn and can't do anything. So that's unfortunate. What is fortunate is that I've anticipated this and placed things into my hand that allow me to work around it, such as a full heal, which heals the paralysis if it just so happens to come into play. Hopefully he doesn't have another Articuno to do that. And this turn I can take the opportunity to ensure that I knock this thing out, so even if I hit myself, I still do 40 damage to the Articuno, which is enough to kill it. I do 20 damage to myself, but I have 2 other Electabuzz in play, so I don't mind. Now, similar to the other cards, the legendary cards, this Articuno requires 3 energy to do anything. And its Ice Breath attack is similar to Zapdos's attack in that it does 40 damage to a Pokemon at random, but there's no chance of it hitting your own side. It only hits your opponent's side. So I guess... well, there's no real reason to retreat yet, because he can't do anything. All we need is 1 heads and we'd be able to knock it out. And he doesn't have any means of switching this thing out of the active spot. I think he's just going to be building up stuff on the bench. We can't have that. So we have everything else going, I guess. I don't see the need to put an energy on anything else. 3 Electabuzz are enough for me. It's a bit of a shame we don't get to see the other ones do much of anything, but we'll be using this deck for a little while. So we'll have our chance. I guess we'll start building up this Snorlax, got not much else to do with it. Now, depending on what he's been powering up, he may or may not actually be able to do anything to us. If it's just the Ditto, I think we're okay. Here's Articuno's Quick Freeze. And it failed, thankfully! So, let's see, what do you have on your side? Articuno and Articuno. So let's retreat. Let's get a fresh Electabuzz in play. Let's get... I guess we'll keep powering up Snorlax, and I don't see the need to bring in anything else. Unless he has a means of getting that Ditto out of the active spot. Or I guess he'll retreat, but we can always just Gust of Wind it back in. And that's our last prize card.